Hello and welcome back. This is Andre, and in this episode, I want to talk about the master's dissertation in Cambridge because I am living right now in the process of doing the dissertation. Today is the 19th of April, so I'm 2 months until giving the actual dissertation, and I got some thoughts, I got some insights, I got some things which I learned by doing this dissertation, and I want to share this with the world. Now, I want to start by giving a 2 minutes overview of what my dissertation is about, because I believe that this gives some insights into experiencing my experiences. And I am doing my dissertation in computer science, and my topic is in artificial intelligence, more specifically in applying deep learning techniques on medical imaging. But I think it's better that we go on a computer and we have a deeper look of what I'm doing. So we are now inside my actual project, and this is the actual code. I wanted to put the entire background of how the code looks like because I wanted to share the actual experience of doing such a project. But the key idea to understand what I'm trying to do is this plot. So if you focus only on these two diagrams, I will talk about these things. Now, these are some skin lesions. So these are some things on the human skin, and there are algorithms which try to detect whether this thing have cancer or they don't have cancer, they are bad or not. So pretty much there are artificial intelligence algorithms which can diagnose such lesions. And on top of those, then you want to find out how your algorithms behaves, in the sense that you want to interpret its decisions. And in this case, this image, it's a vascular lesion, and my algorithm predicted with 100% accuracy that it is a vascular lesion. So this is good result. But now you want to find out why did it do that. And these are some methods, there are plenty of them, which tries to interpret how the algorithm actually made the prediction. Now, my hypothesis is that if we employ different method of training, which is called adversarial training, then the interpretability maps are going to look better. So ideally what should happen is that this, let's say, heat map of where the important things in the image for the algorithm are would look much more appealing to humans, much more meaningful to humans. So this is normal, and we see that the region of interest is actually the lesion, and the heat map using my method of interest looks slightly different, but I'm investigating how to make it look better. I will try to touch on a few things about the dissertation process that I believe are worth noting about, but let me start by giving like a 1 minute overall thoughts about the entire experience of doing the dissertation. And I think this is well summarized in what my supervisor told me in the beginning, and that is that this dissertation is your baby. Like, I and you and everybody needs to treat it as it's like it's your baby, meaning it's your project. So it's you who is in charge of the actual project. Sure, you have help from the outside world. Your supervisor is giving you advice, other people are giving you advice, but at the end of the day, it's on you who do this dissertation. And I think that it takes a bit to internalize this thought, but it gets to the core of what I'm trying to express here, in that it's somehow a lonely process, meaning that it's you who needs to try to do something, somehow novel, because it's a master's dissertation in Cambridge. So there is some expectation that you at least, touch on the cutting edge. And it's important to realize that it's on you who do the actual project. The first point is about going into the unknown. Like, firstly, this is a master's dissertation. So it's expected that you do something which is not only interesting, but it's, on the cutting edge of the things, meaning you somehow touch on the boundary to new research, and it feels somehow lonely because firstly, everybody does their dissertation on a small niche and you get to know that niche, but you can't talk about that niche with many people because they have their own niches, which is not your niche. And there are not many people who actually know about your niche. So it feels lonely in a way because it's on you and you can't talk much about with everybody about what you are doing, other than, for example, what I've just shown you that my dissertation is about. Like, I'm talking about, somehow general things of what I'm doing that somebody who doesn't do it can grasp, but I can't go into, niche details of the paper that I read yesterday because nobody knows it, and it gives a, feeling of loneliness in a sense. Another thing to notice is that research is vastly different than software engineering. Now, until now, I did, some internships as a software engineer, and I got to understand how the engineering process works. Now, typically in engineering, the requirements are very well defined, meaning that the engineer knows what he needs to do, like the tasks, the expectations are well defined, and you are building an actual product, meaning there is not much, novelty in the sense of new inventions, but it's building. You are a builder. But when you are a researcher, it's more about taking a direction, going a bit, taking the smog out of the fog out of the equation, because it's not sure that the direction you pick it's a good one. It's not sure that you will even succeed finding something in this direction. So instead of continuously building things, you will go more towards trying things. So it's more about experimenting. It's about hypothesis testing. It's about, trying things. Many of them will fail. It's a different process because you need to start with different expectations. Like, you should not start with the expectation that you will find something necessarily. You will do your experiments that you can write in the thesis. So that's fine, because in the thesis, you're not expected to publish, novelty. You are expected to do some experiments, but it's a different type of expectation. And on a daily basis, you might not have days when you actually find something. Like, I had many days in which I was just writing code for the experiments and getting a few days later with the experiments done and not finding anything useful, or finding something which shows that my hypothesis is not necessarily good. And it's important to have this because in the beginning I had issues with this because I didn't think that it is going this way. And now I think that I'm going towards talking about the next point, and that is about the moments of down. Because as I was talking, there are experiments which fail, meaning that they don't give anything useful, and these are also part of the process. And it's discouraging in the beginning because you expect to have something to show to the world, because whatever you see from the other people is finished things, but it is not like that. And this managing these expectations that you might not find something on a daily basis might give some moments of down. And the other thing which is worth noting is that when you talk to other people, meaning everybody else outside of you, your supervisor, classmates, colleagues, everybody, people talk about results, meaning things that you can show and you can talk about. Even when you are talking with your supervisor, you just tell insights, thoughts, results. You show things which you can show to the world, but nobody cares about your code. Nobody cares how you got there. Nobody wants even to know that because there are not many details that people just can't process and they are not interesting. So whenever you talk to your classmates, they talk about results, and this makes you feel intimidated. It's like, hey, they have these results, but firstly, you have your results as well, and it should not feel intimidating. And people must realize that when you talk to the outside world, you need to show results. People want to see something that they can easily grasp, and a result is something that you can grasp. And regarding to this dissertation, it's worth noting that most of your days you will not get results. People expect you to have results, and results take a decent amount of time to get. And starting with this approach in mind that it just takes time to get results that you can show to the world, I think it's good. It's a good way of contextualizing that things take time. The other thing to realize in the moments of doubt is that bugs can appear, and bugs are normal. Like, it's expected to have bugs. Like, the worst things in doing this dissertation is that it's a research code, meaning you are writing research code in the computer science world, and you might have issues in the code that you are not aware. And you find out a few days later that the code that you've written is just not useful, in the sense that it was showing bad results because you did some small mistakes. And I have such an example that I want to walk you through that shows that, hey, I was getting this result. I thought it's a bad result, but actually it was a meaningless result because I have a bug. Let's see that. All right, so here I was analyzing the difference between standard algorithms and adversarial train algorithms, and I was looking into these results and comparing how these heat maps look. This is the same image, and these are the heat maps for this image using two algorithms. And note that in this image I have two bugs. The first one is that this is the same image, right? But the true label, meaning the content of the image, once was melanocyte nevi and the other times was vascular lesion. But hey, this is the exactly same image, so the true label should be the same. So this was a bug in the sense that I was showing the results for a different image. First bug. Then the second bug is, look at those masks. You see that in this heat map, the values are between 0 and 1. But when you look at the distribution at the values inside this heat map, they're between -1 and 1. But here I'm telling you that it's between 0 and 1. So there is a discrepancy between the values in here. And I found out that it was because I was showing the distribution on a different value than the values in this heat map. So this is one image with two bugs. And things like this can happen. It's not enjoyable, but I think it's expected. Now, with these moments of doubt, I found a meme that I think summarizes most of what I'm trying to say now. And that is, when you start this master's research project, is that there are points in which you believe that it's not possible, or it's hard, or it's you can't just do it. But then, like a few days later, a few months later, you read a paper which does mostly exactly what you thought about, and then you are sad because, they already, what I want to do is already existing. And this is just like a retarded thing, because firstly you think it's too hard and too novel, then you see that other people did it, and then it's not special anymore, which is just weird. But this is how it happens. And as a side fact, almost everything that you will be doing in your master's dissertation, almost surely everybody did something which is similar to that. Like, you are basing your work out of other people's work, you will push and build something new, but it's not like that much novelty that you can't find it anywhere. And it's good to realize those things. Another important thing is that start with the evaluation strategy in mind. And I can't emphasize how important is that, but there is a caveat to this thing. So with evaluation, now evaluation is a way of assessing like how good is what you did, meaning does it improve things, does it not improve things? And this is especially in computer science and in engineering sciences, and that you need to have a analytical approach to evaluation. Like, at the end of the day, when you read your things, you need to have a binary thought, like, hey, is this good? Is it bad? So you have to have some pros and cons of your solution and talk about them. But for example, in my project, I am taking more of a qualitative approach because what I'm doing is qualitative research. It's in deep learning interpretability. And this is a very active area of research just because it's a new thing and it's an early thing. And there are not that many methods of evaluating things quantitatively. So I need to take a qualitative approach. Now, the bad thing with this is that it's hard to evaluate something qualitatively and still talk to the world analytically, because quality, it's not an analytical process. It's just not. Quantity, it's an analytical process. Everything which doesn't have digits, it's not that much analytical. And first, I didn't have a good evaluation strategy from the beginning, purely from the fact that you just don't know. And this touches on another thing, that there are lots of unknowns when you start that you just don't know that even they exist, or you don't know the solution. And I think it's fine. Like, you get to take the fog out of the equation by spending days and spending lots of time into this, and you can't know everything from the beginning. And even now that I'm speaking about, these thoughts that I'm having about the dissertation, and even this advice about thinking about the evaluation strategy, like, I'm telling it to you, but I found out it by not having a good evaluation strategy from the beginning. And this brings us to the next point, that it's also a numbers game, meaning the time you put in the master dissertation, there is a strong correlation between time put in and results. Like, you just can't have results with 5 hours of day of work, or I don't know how to do it, but I think it's highly unlikely somebody who puts 5 hours or 8 hours, there is going to be a strong difference into the quality of what they are doing. And the other thing with putting time into the dissertation, because it's time at the end of the day, is that the more time you put it, the more problems you will see that they exist. So you will find out, for example, about the issues with the evaluation strategy, but you will make progress. And it's a numbers game. So remember this thing, it is a numbers game, meaning the time, the numbers you are putting in actually matters. And it might not be a direct, one-on-one, like you put 1 hour, you get 1 point, let's say, in the dissertation, but it is a strong correlation between the time you put in and the results of the actual project. The other things is that there are some moments of fear into this process. There are moments of resistance. What do I mean by that? The moments of resistance are actually, where is fear of what you will find out. So, for example, when I got some bad results, meaning they were not supporting my hypothesis, then, you just get scared of trying new things, and you are resisting of testing new hypotheses because they might not, giving you something useful. And I think this is normal. It's just human beings of feeling this fear of resistance, of finding something bad. But the solution to this is realize that it's a numbers game. Like, you just need to put more time to make advancements. And if you stay with the sensation of fear, it's just not helpful because it's blocking you. And you stop putting much time, so you break the it's a numbers game strategy. It's much easier to say that than to do it, but it's important to realize, at least from my experience, that breaking this fear of resistance of doing the next steps in the dissertation because of the, let's say, unknown of what you are going to find can be only broke through a numbers strategy, like putting more time. Now, a tip with this putting more time strategy, which is unbelievably important in my opinion, is tracking the time you put in. Like, have a time tracking application, which is unbelievably easy to use. Like, it's not consuming your time. It's not more than 1 minute a day to track your time, and put your time that you are only working into that application. And I will show you how my timeline looks like, because you want to have an objective way of looking at your performance, in the sense that having the feeling that you worked during the day, it's not enough. You need to work with numbers because they are not lying to you. This is the application that I'm using to track my time. It's called Toggle. It's pretty easy to use, and here I have a view of my previous week. Today is the 19th, so it's my birthday today and I decided to take the day off. But all the previous days I did about 7.5 hours a day. I see the hours that I did in the past week. Now, one thing to note is that I track only the time that I actually work, so no break, only the time that I'm working. And I took the application on my computer, so I can see everything that I did in the past days, and it's easy for me to click continue or new. Now, one cool thing is that it has this thing called a timeline, and I can see what I worked and how I worked on a daily basis. So, for example, yesterday I see that I started about 8:51 a.m. and I worked on the dissertation. This is probably the lunch. This is working on the dissertation. And then I continued to work on the dissertation in the evening. We see that towards the end of the day I start having bigger breaks. Like in the beginning of the day I have full energy, so I'm packing a lot of work. But as the day advances, I start getting more breaks. And for example, Friday started 8:43, big blocks of time. You see, like I pack about 4 hours until 1, then lunch, and then I start working slower. But overall, and you see that I don't track the breaks. It's very easy, but it's very important, because if you don't have target that on a daily basis, and to me the target is to do more than 7 hours of actual work, it's pretty easy to start slipping through. So I recommend people use a time tracking application. The last thing that I want to talk about is positive, and that is that it's very rewarding to see that what you are working and what you are doing starts to get shape. Meaning, I'm now 1 month of fully every day working on the dissertation, and I got some results, I got some insights, I got things that I can show to the world, and it's rewarding and it's fulfilling, and it's it's a good sensation to see that, hey, you put that much time and you actually got to somewhere. And I think this is where the beauty of this process comes in, because you get to the point where you have something, and I still have 2 months ahead of me, and it will be rewarding when I will put all my work into paper, have a dissertation, get it done. It's gonna be meaningful, and it's good to remember that the whole point of this master's is to make you like a stronger person, a better researcher, a person with a stronger character, because you need to walk through all those moments of down, and it is a process that I believe makes you a stronger person. I will continue to put some videos about this master's and about my future PhD that I'm starting next year. And this is how it's actually happening. This is my video studio. That's me. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.